What's up guys, the StrongBoys19 here. It is time for the 2014 album review of the new Agalloch album entitled The Serpent and the Sphere. Now for those who don't know these guys, Agalloch is a band from Portland, United States, and this is their 5th studio album, and Marrow of the Spirit is their previous album which came out in 2010. Now I've got to say that I have been a big fan of these guys for quite some time now, and to be honest with you guys, I have to say that Agalloch had to be one of the most unique, dark and creative bands out there, because this is a band to me that really doesn't need to be mentioned of just one genre, because the band's musical style is a big combination of different sounds of music, from like black metal, doom metal, neo-folk and some other stuff into their music. So I always would give Agalloch a lot of credit from their very interesting songwriting, and you know, this album had been one of my most anticipated albums of the year, and I've got to say that The Serpent and the Sphere is a very different album from these guys, because from the band's previous albums, the band contains some really strong atmosphere from the music and from the deliverance, from the way these songs go. It brings a lot of cinematic feel to it as well, with the atmosphere at the same time, and it is a really, really strong thing from this band, besides the really heavy, raw sounds of the doom and the black metal vibes, and also including some interesting and beautiful folk traditional pieces in their music. So, also the Mantle is definitely my favourite Agalloch album. It's one of my favourites of all time, and they have made other really good releases, you know, Pale Folklore, and also their EPs. So The Serpent and the Sphere is quite a different approach to the band, for my opinion. And on this album, the band still continues on the really heavy sounds of the doom and black metal vibes, and a lot of more folk traditions into these tracks. And plus, this album includes 3 short acoustic guitar interludes: Serpent's Caput, Cors Serpentis and Serpent Coda. Absolutely beautiful, and the acoustic guitars sound is really outstanding. And there's been some other favourites, other songs I really enjoyed on this album. Dark Matter Gods, which from what I've heard from multiple listens of this album, the Dark Matter Gods is like a really instant, straightforward type of black metal song, and also Celestial Effigy is really good. There are some unfortunate flaws on this album, but we're just going to get to the positives. So a lot of the songs on this album are really good stuff as well, and the production of this album is pretty solid stuff as well, even though sometimes some of the instruments, like I think like the drums and the other instruments, sometimes overpower over each other. So I can really still hear everything from the band's music and the vocals as well, but sometimes I can hear some of the instruments that are a bit more louder than the others. The guitar sound of this album is really, really good, I have to say, and the distortion sounds heavy, and also the drums that sounded aggressive as well, and even there are the sounds of the keyboards and also percussion into this album, and it kind of reminds me of something like a folky traditional piece when Agalloch switches from their heavy music to their more softer tone on their acoustic guitars, and the clean guitar sounds from the electric guitars. And it always reminds me that bringing some folk acoustic guitar and putting some percussion, it really reminds me of more of a unique traditional style. The vocals of this album, the vocals are still great to this day, and the vocals do have the great massive amounts of the strong roars, and at some points there are some whispering involved into the music, which I find quite unique. And I always like how Agalloch can really try something new and make it quite interesting. This album unfortunately does have some repetition involved, especially the two longest songs on the album, Birth and Death of the Pillars of Creation and Plateau of the Ages. Those two songs last more than 10 minutes long. At first they start off pretty flawlessly, and at some point when the music carries on there has been some repetition involved, which is kind of a little bit of a throw off to me, but it doesn't really spoil the album entirely for me. So overall, this album is still a strong release from Agalloch, and you know, just let me know what you guys think of this album. You know, let me know in the comments. I would still enjoy this album, but if I want something more, I say, more dramatic and powerful, I would listen to The Mantle and some of their previous releases. This album does have some powerful moments, but I think to me the biggest lackluster thing on this album is the atmosphere. I really don't hear more atmosphere like the previous releases on this album to me. I respect Agalloch for trying out something different, and the atmosphere had been one of my most favourite things from Agalloch besides the music and the great production. But on this album has quite a lack of atmosphere, so, you know, I'll just have to accept, you know, their choice. Is a strong recommendation from me to you, and you know, that's just pretty much all I've got to say about Agalloch's fifth album, The Serpent and the Sphere. And I'm going to give this album, I say, an 8.5 out of 10, and you know, just go out and check it out, and like I said, just let me know what you think of this album. So thank you guys for watching, and I will be back to do more videos in the future, and as always, keep it metal.